Hey you guys, it is your weekly 5-minute tip. I'm sorry that it's late this week. It's been a weird week. Figured I'd talk about green this week. It's spring for most of us. Green is blooming into life. And if it's not yet, it's coming. And every year when we stop shooting exclusively indoors because it's freezing out and move out into the great green world, there's suddenly this intense push of, oh my God, I hate green so much. It's the worst. So I want to talk about editing your way around greens so that you can make peace with them and love them even, maybe. So here we have, this is a midsummer greens, and in Colorado, I know I've said this before, greens are really, we have very limited access to them. Now that I'm here in Hawaii, it's all green all the time, baby. So this is one of the original sets that Spice was built for, because Spice is built for split skin tones when you have several types of skin tone in the same image. So let's move it into the full, and you can tell in the one click, like, it's really pretty close to what I love, but it's very, very green. How do you feel about green? What's your personal feeling with green? A lot of ways to deal with green for me are, one of my favorite things is to pull luminance way down. It sort of damps down the intensity of the green. Yes, you can pull your saturation down. What can happen as you do that, though, is that the image starts to feel like super surreal. I also like to change the timbre and tone of green because it really changes how the image feels. It can feel really, really warm or really, really cool and springy. I find that moving it into this warm area and then pulling the luminance way, way down, and then you can fiddle with the saturation. I don't really feel like anyone should go here. It's a lot. But just pulling it down so it's not your focal point can do a lot for you. Alternately, I also really love turning it into this like emerald color. But when I do that, I also make sure that my blues are all sitting in like a mid range. Otherwise it gets like way too crazy. And then, you know, you want to keep your luminance somewhere in the middle there. Again, this is like really a lot of personal preference, but I really, really encourage you to move into your hue, saturation, and luminance panels, your HSL, if you will, just to have a solid play with what is going to make green more attractive to your brain. Of course, the overall white balance is going to really, really change how your green is looking and feeling. Just tipping this up to slightly warmer and slightly pinker is too much for the skin. I really like skin that has a strong balance of blues and greens, because that's what our veins are doing, and I think that they should be allowed to be themselves. And then this image actually was on a very cloudy space, so I like to pull back some highlights there because it doesn't have a lot of contrast in it. The other thing we want to do, and I know this, we already talked about it, but chromatic aberration, especially when you're dealing with a lot of trees, really changes the way your brain sees what you're looking at. So when we don't pull the chromatic aberration, you can see all this edging that is actually not being controlled by our actual changes to the HSL panel. Instead, it's just existing in its own wild way because it's chromatic aberration, not a tone that you photographed. So that can really change the overall greens as well. Hopefully those are some management tools for you on greens. Again, I don't know anyone that's a fan of this like spring green, but if you are, good for you, and keep it up, because your personal color tastes are what counts. And if you really love super cool greens or super warm greens or whatever it is that you really love, you do you, boo, because it should be great according to your eyeballs, and let everybody else do the greens the way that they feel about them. Hopefully that's your hot 5-minute tip that helps, and I'll see you all next week.